The night was unusually stormy in Lagos, the streets glistening under heavy rainfall while thunder rolled through the sky. And inside Oasis Dine and Lounge, a modest restaurant alive with the hum of Afrobeat and the clatter of cutlery, a young black African woman named Aisha moved swiftly between tables in her crisp modern uniform, a fitted black blouse tucked into tailored navy pants with sleek ankle boots, her natural hair tied into a stylish puff, and though her polished appearance gave her confidence, her weary eyes betrayed the burden of her struggles. For she had spent 3 years here serving food and wiping tables while secretly dreaming of becoming a fashion designer with her own boutique filled with vibrant gowns and mannequins dressed in her creations. Yet every night when she returned to her small rented room to count the wrinkled Naira notes she had earned, those dreams felt impossibly distant, and tonight was no different as the rain pushed customers out in a hurry. Staff murmured about closing early, and Aisha, humming softly to herself to stay awake, stacked plates and wiped counters until suddenly the creak of the front door startled her, and in stepped a tall black African man, broad-shouldered and striking, dressed in a charcoal gray suit that clung damply from the rain, his polished black shoes and golden cufflinks gleaming under the dim lights, his very presence demanding attention, and Aisha, steadying her voice despite the late hour, offered politely, "Good evening, sir, we're about to close, but I can still serve you something warm," to which the man removed his wet jacket, placed it carefully over the chair beside him, and with a faint smile that carried a hint of mystery replied, "Tea will do. But I'd also like to ask you something." And as Aisha prepared his order, curiosity sparked inside her chest until she returned to find his gaze fixed on her as if he could see right through her, and suddenly he asked, "Do you ever dream of a life beyond this place?" A question that pierced her like lightning, leaving her to laugh nervously as she answered, "Dreams don't pay bills, sir," but he leaned forward, his elbows resting on the table, eyes unwavering, and with calm conviction said, "Sometimes, they do if you dare enough," which made her heart stumble, her curiosity heighten, and so she countered quickly, "And you? Do you dare?" Prompting his lips to curve into a subtle, knowing smile as he whispered, "I dare to find people whose dreams are buried, and I help set them free." And though the rain outside grew louder, the restaurant quieter, Aisha's spirit stirred in a way it hadn't for years. For here she was, being told by a stranger in a soaked but expensive suit that she wasn't just invisible, she wasn't just a waitress, she could be something more. Yet she shook her head and tried to mask her unease, replying softly, "You don't know me, sir, I'm just a waitress," to which he stirred his tea with a steady hand and replied, "And maybe tomorrow you'll be more than that," leaving her speechless. Torn between doubt and a flicker of hope she couldn't suppress, her chest tightening with the weight of his words, her breath uneven as if the storm outside had moved into her soul, and in that tense silence broken only by the tap of rain against the glass, Ajasia realized this night was no ordinary night but perhaps the beginning of something life-altering, and right there, as if the universe had aligned their meeting, she heard her own voice whispering inside, daring her to believe. And before she could stop herself, she asked, "Sir, why are you really here?" Which drew a calm, almost prophetic response. Because sometimes the universe brings the right people together at the right time, and when she asked with hesitation, "And what if I'm not the right person?" He smiled with warmth that unsettled her heart and answered, "You wouldn't be standing here if you weren't," and though she wanted to dismiss his words as nonsense, deep inside she knew something about this stranger's presence was different. His tone filled with certainty that made her question her own doubts, and it was in that very moment, as the rain thundered outside and her hands trembled slightly against the counter, that her life silently shifted. A seed planted in her heart by the words of a stranger who promised she was meant for more. And as the camera of destiny zoomed into her hesitant but hopeful eyes, her story had only just begun. If you believe destiny can change in the blink of an eye, hit that like button. Share this story with someone who needs hope. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful African tales. Because little did Aisha know, the man sipping tea in her nearly empty restaurant wasn't just any guest, but the very stranger who had come to rewrite her destiny forever, a twist that would shock everyone who once mocked her dreams. The following morning, sunlight spilled across the bustling streets of Lagos as Aisha, now wearing a mustard-yellow blouse tucked into high-waisted black jeans with crisp white sneakers, tied her natural curls into a neat bun and rushed to her shift at Oasis Dine and Lounge, her mind restless from the strange encounter of the night before, the man's words replaying endlessly. Sometimes the universe brings the right people together at the right time. She wanted to dismiss it as coincidence, But her heart refused to let go of the spark it ignited, and as she carried trays and greeted customers, she kept glancing toward the door, half expecting the stranger to appear again, though she told herself she was foolish for hoping, until just past noon. The door swung open and there he was, this time in a tailored navy blue suit with polished brown shoes, his presence commanding attention, yet softened by the warmth of his smile. And when his eyes met hers, Aisha felt her breath falter, quickly recovering with the professional grace of a waitress as she asked, "Good afternoon, sir, your usual tea?" And he nodded before responding, "And perhaps a conversation, if you're free after work," leaving her speechless again, her heart racing with questions, but she forced herself to smile politely, unaware that her co-workers whispered curiously about the well-dressed man who kept seeking her out. Hours later, when the restaurant closed for its afternoon break, she found herself sitting across from him, the hum of the city spilling through the windows as he introduced himself. "My name is Kelechi Obafemi. I invest in people, not just businesses," and though his words sounded almost rehearsed, the sincerity in his eyes disarmed her, prompting her to confess hesitantly, "I've always wanted to be a designer, but life, it just keeps me here." And to her surprise, he leaned forward and asked with steady calmness, "Then why stay trapped if the door is open?" A question that unsettled her deeply, and before she could reply, he slid a sleek leather folder across the table containing his card embossed in gold, and inside it, pages of boutique spaces available for rent in Lagos. Causing her to stare in disbelief as he explained, "I'll fund the first 6 months. The rest you'll earn yourself," leaving her torn between fear and exhilaration, for she had never been offered such an opportunity. And though she wanted to say yes, her voice trembled as she whispered, "Why me?" To which Kelechi answered with unflinching conviction, "Because I see what you're afraid to admit. You're not just a waitress. Aisha, you're an artist, and the world deserves your vision." Words that pierced her soul with truth. Bringing tears she fought to hold back, and though doubt still lingered, she finally nodded, realizing that perhaps destiny had indeed opened a door through this stranger. Days turned into weeks, and soon Aisha stood in her new boutique walls painted ivory. Mannequins dressed in vibrant Ankara gowns she designed herself. Racks filled with modern African-inspired outfits. The air buzzing with fresh possibility, her friends and family visiting in disbelief. Some offering support, others whispering cynicism, yet the first customer who walked in, a young black African woman dressed in a sleek crimson gown, smiled and said, "These designs are powerful. I've never seen anything like this," validating Aisha's talent instantly. And from there, word spread quickly across social media, photos of her work trending, her Instagram filling with followers, orders pouring in until she could barely keep up. And every evening, Kelechi would stop by in his rotating wardrobe of sharp suits, emerald green tie one day, silver cufflinks the next, reminding her to breathe, to dream bigger, to keep going. And though whispers circulated that he must be gaining something in return, she knew in her heart that his only gain was seeing her rise. For his mentorship carried no hidden contract, only belief. Yet, just when her success seemed unstoppable, the twist of fate arrived. One late evening, as she closed the boutique, she noticed a group of women outside murmuring in excitement, pointing at a billboard that had just been unveiled, a glossy advertisement showcasing her designs worn by black African models in modern gowns, the tagline reading, "By Aisha, where African dreams take flight." And though pride swelled in her chest, fear gripped her too, for she realized this exposure meant critics would come harder, doubters louder, and indeed, days later, a journalist interviewed her live on television, bluntly asking, "Isn't it true that you were just a waitress last month? What makes you qualified to run a fashion house now?" A question meant to humiliate, but Aisha, now dressed in a sleek emerald green jumpsuit with gold hoop earrings, lifted her chin and replied firmly, "Yes. I was a waitress, but dreams don't check resumes, they check courage, and I chose to answer." Her words igniting applause across social media as clips of her response went viral, inspiring countless young Africans who had been laughed at for dreaming too big, proving that courage and belief could rewrite any story. And while she walked off that set, Kelechi waiting quietly by the exit, she whispered, "They'll never stop doubting me," to which he smiled and answered, "Then don't stop proving them wrong." A simple yet powerful reminder that her battle had only just begun, but victory was already hers in every step forward. And as the camera of destiny panned wide, capturing Aisha standing proudly before her boutique with customers lined outside, modern gowns shimmering in the sunlight, and Kelechi watching quietly from a distance like a guardian angel, the moral was clear: sometimes a stranger's kindness isn't chance but destiny. And when you dare to step through the open door, you may not just change your life, you may inspire millions to believe in theirs. Moral of story: life may throw you into places where you feel invisible, but one bold decision can turn your pain into power. Never underestimate where you start, because the world will remember how you finish.